Hi there, my friend. I want to thank RG175 for sponsoring this episode of the Independent School Moonshot podcast. Great schools thrive under great leadership. At RG175, we understand that finding the right match between a school and its next leader is a defining moment for both heads and trustees. With extensive experience in independent school leadership and a highly personalized approach, we guide boards through thoughtful search processes and support school leaders through key career transitions. Whether you're looking for your next leadership opportunity or seeking the ideal fit for your school, RG175 is here to help. Visit rg175.com. Again, that's rg175.com to learn more, because behind every successful school is a great leader. Hi there, my friend. I'm Peter Barron, and welcome to today's episode of the Independent School Moonshot podcast. I'm really excited to have David Lee here. David is the head of school at Daycroft School in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we had a chance to connect not long ago and talk about some really interesting enrollment work that they've done to grow enrollment, and not just a little bit, but like dramatically. And so I'm really thrilled to be able to tell that story today and welcome David to the podcast. David, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Hey, before we get started, can you introduce yourself and Daycroft School?
Sure. My name is David Lee. I'm wrapping up my 6th year as the head of Daycroft School. We're a toddler through 6th grade Montessori school. Daycroft is one of the oldest Montessori programs in Michigan, and it's a wonderful school. Not only am I the head of school, but I'm a parent. I had 2 boys that started here, and I still have my youngest child in 2nd grade, which is a wonderful thing to get hugs in the hallway every day from your own child.
Yeah. And you started in 2018, is that right?
I hired in 2018. So the fall of 2019 was the start of my career. And it was my first headship moving from San Francisco. And I was in for a big surprise that year.
Yeah, you're probably, I think, the 5th head that I've interviewed that started it, fall of 2019. What a time to.
Yeah, I think if you're still standing in your headship after that, we're Teflon, and we've seen a lot and made it through. Probably was most grueling life experience that anyone could possibly get through. And hopefully those other 5 are seeing the sunshine on the other side.
They absolutely are. What's interesting about your story is that when you stepped into Daycroft, you were facing a deficit. You were about 100 students enrolled, right? I'm curious from that perspective, what were your priorities, right? In those early months, and how did they, shape what it was a pretty dramatic turnaround. And if you want to share what the turnaround was, that'd be great too.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit daunting. I came in following an interim head. I was the 5th head at our school in 7 years. They did not have a continuous enrollment contract in place, which is what we have today. And so they had 134 students enrolled in the school before I came in here. And when I started on July 1st, there was 102 students enrolled. We were running a pretty significant deficit. I think we were projected to burn through about $700,000 of cash. The faculty and staff had been cut back to adjust for enrollment, and it really was an all hands on deck for both the board, myself, the faculty, to move the needle on enrollment. I mean, I literally hit the ground, not even knowing the school that well. But I was going to be a parent at the school with 2 children, and I was all in to making this a success. It had a core of fantastic teachers, a wonderful Montessori philosophy, and it was daunting during that summer, but it was important. The number one thing was increase enrollment. That was the sole focus.
Yeah, and community was a big part of that strategy, right? I mean, how did you approach that, thinking community first?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to come from the Bay Area, working for 2 high functioning independent schools. One was Town School, it was a K-8 all boys school. And then last I was at Stewart Hall, which is a Sacred Heart school in San Francisco, both super high functioning schools. And one of the things I loved about being a teacher, my previous career, I was in investment banking. And so, making that transition to schools, and working with colleagues and teachers that are wonderful human beings. I love going to school every day to work as a teacher, and the sense of community that I had there when I came to Daycroft because the disruption was here. I'm like, I need, as heads of schools, we are the culture keepers. And I had such a wonderful experience teaching and being a part of those communities. That's what I wanted to replicate here at Daycroft. And it's hard for independent schools to create community, right? Because we're drawing for families all over, and it's not just in the town. And here in Ann Arbor, it's even harder because there are 20 local elementary schools that literally are walking distance. Most families walk to their elementary school with their children. And that's a hard sell for families to not walk across the street to the school, but to get in the car and drive to where we're located. And so the families that were here had already invested in wanting to be part of the Daycroft, going to a Montessori school, and I'm the ringmaster. Let's bring everybody together under the tent. Let's get social. Let's go out. Let's create events here. That first summer that I was here back in San Francisco, we had a thing called Off the Grid with food trucks, and we would have games and music in the field. I'm like, let's do that here. Like on a weekend, everybody's got to eat lunch. Let's get some food trucks. I found some music, and it was wonderful to have that. Of course, it rained, but we did it anyways, and it was just a good kickoff to head of the start of school year. But that was really a focus, Peter, to bring that sense of community that I had in the two Bay Area schools here to Daycroft.
And was that something that took time? To build that community, like how did that play out over the years? Was that an immediate thing, or did it take some time?
It took time. It took time in building the relationships with parents, getting to know them. I feel like Heads 101, one of the most important things we do is every morning standing on the porch, opening car doors, welcoming students in, talking to parents, and then at pickup, getting out there early when their parents are hanging on the front stoop for pickup, just catching up, getting to know parents, knowing where they're from. I've traveled the world. I grew up outside of Boston, lived in Tokyo, lived in Baltimore, San Francisco, now in Ann Arbor. And I feel like there's a very small world out there, and there's 2 degrees of separation. And so making those personal connections with people, and it's the nature of who I am. I get energy off of talking and meeting with people. And I think it was apparent, and it was great to make connections too. That's something I love to do is if there are 2 people that don't know each other, let's make connections.
Yeah.
And the stickier we can make our communities, I call it Velcro. It's harder for families to leave if they feel part of the community. Their children are friends with other children in your school. The parents are friends with each other. It just becomes sticky. And so that was really what I was trying to create here at Daycroft, was this sticky community that was really attached to one another.
So you're like actively saying, hey, this parent should get to know this parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, do you know Alexander? Do you know Mike? No, we haven't met. Oh my gosh, you guys should meet. And then,
because some shared interest or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to know about people. I get on a chairlift, by myself. I'll start chatting up the person next to me. And I think you meet wonderful people by being curious and asking questions. And in our community here in Ann Arbor, where University of Michigan is, they're just fascinating individuals that are professors and studying or doing research on just amazing topics. And it's wonderful because a lot of times it's a big enough town, people don't know one another. We're 120,000 people here, and it's small enough, but it's also big enough where people, sometimes don't know one another.
It strikes me that community was such a big focus of yours. I imagine you also apply in like connecting people and building relationships and all the work that goes into that. I imagine when you were hiring, was that a lens that you looked for? I mean, is that a quality or a characteristic? Because I know thinking about like just hiring the best people is a huge value add for your students and your families. But I'm curious, how did those 2 things connect, or did they?
It very much does. I've had fortunate enough experiences in hiring to look at certain qualities in any candidate, regardless of what industry you're in, to see if it's going to be a good fit, especially around community, right? We all want the best possible teachers for whatever that subject area is, age level. But it's what else do you bring? That's always one of the big questions I ask. Each person has their own passions and interests. I'm like, teaching is not a science, it's an art. And so what is that je ne sais quoi that the teacher is going to bring into the classroom, whether it's yoga, it's a passion in art, it's a passion in fossils, and really, as a teacher, what are the dynamics that are coming into our school? I love hiring. I grew up playing sports. I love hiring athletes too, because I know those are individuals that can get up and they can get knocked down or had hard conversations and keep going. And they're going to persevere. And it's very much in the tenet of the Montessori philosophy about perseverance and working hard, which I felt so lucky that the community, Peter, actually was very much in the essence of the Montessori spirit here at Daycroft around care of the environment, care of one another, respect for one another. There was wonderful components already within the faculty and staff here where community and looking out for one another was already inherent in the school before I got here. So I felt very lucky that that was already established. And then finding great teachers that brought something special and unique to the position was also key. I do feel like that has been one of the big successes in our turnaround. Families send their children not because of me, but because of the teachers in the classroom. And the best compliment I can get is from other teachers that have been here for a while is saying, David, you've hired some really great teachers. And I'm really proud of that. I know I can leave here at some point and know that the faculty and staff here are fantastic.
Yeah. You said during our conversation that enrollment solves all problems, right? So this was such a interesting quote. I know when you arrived, there were 100. You're at what, about 200 students now?
203, yeah.
203. So that is literally a doubling of enrollment in five plus years. Yep. How'd you do it? Like, what are some of the enrollment strategies that you did to, and as you said before, like there are 20 public schools that are within walking distance of people's homes. Like, how did you differentiate? Like, what was the strategy?
Yeah, it's hard to sell against free. And I won't lie, the pandemic definitely helped. We opened on September 1st of 2020. We worked tirelessly through the summer to figure out a plan to communicate and create safety here so we would open. And I wear this funny hat because I do come from the finance industry, and we're a nonprofit, so we need to be able to cover our costs, right? So enrollment covers those costs. Enrollment solves the problems, just like an airline needs to sell a certain number of seats so that you can pay the pilots, the stewards, the plane, the fuel. We need to get enough students in here to cover our costs. So, and then once we do, the growing enrollment then helps to bring other benefits to both compensation, to reinvest in the school, new playgrounds, new materials in the classroom. And that creates a tide. You change the tide, and it takes time. It's not easy. There's no one thing you can do, but literally every single student mattered, right? From retention was a big part. Like, those who are here, we want to make sure you're staying here. And two is recruiting and growing the enrollment. I was actively involved. Every single prospective family that came into the school, I was partnered up with the admissions director. And my admissions director first felt like she was not doing her job, but I'm like, I'm here to partner with you, right? This is number one priority, is that every family that comes in here, we want to show them the amazing learning that is going on, and that this is a place that they can see themselves. And again, the way to do that is, why are you here in the first place, right? Being curious with families, understanding what is the pain point that's causing them to come to your schools. Because I believe if they're walking into your school, they want to be there, right? And so how do you close that deal in showing them that this is the place to be? Now, I'm not going to lie. We were in a really dire place financially. We needed enrollment. And we enrolled any families that really wanted to come here. Not that we were everything to every family. I've seen that out there a lot, right? You do have to be specific. Like, this is who we are. This is what we're providing. But we enrolled anybody that would come here. And we now, with enrollment growing, it's great because you get to become more selective in making sure that there are families that want to be here because we're Montessori and they want to participate in the community. That's really, really important for us. But I was in the front lines every day. I was emailing families. I changed my license plate to Daycroft. I was all in, right? My car license plate reads Daycroft. My kids are all, we're all wearing the swag.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of Daycroft gear out there. So I was out there marketing. I was driving my truck with Daycroft signs in the Memorial Day parades, and anywhere that I could get Daycroft out in the community. I'm like, this is like the best kept secret. I know that because I'm a parent with kids here, and I think that makes it a good pitch, right? When you're a parent and you're sharing your lived experiences in the school.
I'm curious. So you were in on all those conversations. You had mentioned that you were listening to, what are the pain points and how can you solve them? Did that adjust your messaging in terms of how you went out into the market to recruit families?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say it necessarily changed our messaging.
Did it focus it?
What's that?
Did it focus it?
It focused as far as I would ask similar questions then to other families around what was working in the public schools and what was not working for them, and knowing that, and also knowing, if families were going to a competitor independent school in the area, what were the reasons they were going there? I would always want to follow up with the family saying, it was really a pleasure to meet you, but I'm curious why you chose this school versus ours. I feel like there's more information to be learned that way as well. Exit interviews, and that was helpful. But Peter, I think we were really good about staying true to who we are and what we can offer, knowing that we couldn't be everything to every family. Where there are learning differences with kids, we can support some, but not a lot. And I think our school had gotten to a place where, as a Montessori school, some families thought, oh, it's a great place for my child who's got dyslexia or is on the spectrum. I mean, yes, we can support some, but that is not our specialty. That's not our background. And we can't support every family and child with those learning differences. So we, again, stay true to really who we were. I wouldn't say we changed too much.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you really doubled down on the sales techniques, right? Yeah.
Just connecting with families, and another things we did. Again, I learned so much from my previous schools around like tours and how they're done. Having student ambassadors when a family comes in to look into a classroom, having student ambassadors coming over and introduce themselves as students, share what's going on in the classroom, and answering questions to parents. And parents are blown away when a 6 or 7 year old comes up and introduces themselves and is really proud to show them the work that they're doing in their classrooms, right? So that was something that was learned. Having other parents that are here that love the experience, be docents, and also following up with prospective families. We really, laid it on thick as far as why we're here, and really trying to share with other families that were prospective families around why this is a special. We call it the Daycroft difference.
And now, in 2025, you're sitting at, just north of 200 kids, complete doubling of enrollment. And your tuition covers almost all of operating, right?
It's very close to it, Peter. And I never understood the gap that independent schools had. We have millions of dollars that we can't fund because our tuition isn't covering it. And I know when I was in San Francisco, parents were like, how are you not, from a business standpoint, how can you not charge what it actually costs? So feel really fortunate again, because we had cut to the bones, I would call it. We have 2 teachers now in every classroom. Back then we had 1 teacher in every classroom. And we've increased the benefits significantly because enrollment, because of tuition being able to move up, and retain our teachers. Our retention has been north of 90%. For our faculty, we were 96% retention of our students for next coming year. We've created stability here in the school, and it is around culture. It's around expectations, being clear with that, and being really clear with the teachers and families around who we are, and having everybody buy into that. I don't know if it's a Midwest thing too, but like there's a less sense of entitlement in the Midwest than I think sometimes on the coast, where there's very high expectations, especially when tuitions are at $60,000 plus a year. We're a third of that. But it's just, there's a great respect for the teachers in this community that makes our jobs and leadership and teaching that much easier as well.
Yeah, it's interesting at that, the elementary level. I mean, imagine, high school has all these added costs in terms of extracurricular, sports, all the things. And maybe I'm assuming you don't have a lot of that layered onto your school.
We no, we don't have a lot of those additional costs coming in, but as I'm really proud of where we are from an operating standpoint. We still fundraise, and we've been really successful in growing our annual fund. We do a spring benefit to build community and to thank our teachers. And those funds are going into the improvements in our school. We've sunk nearly $1.5 million back into our school over the last 2 years through renovations, new playgrounds that are awesome. I will say that it's, even as an adult, it's fun to climb on, and we want to continue to reinvest into our school and make this a better place. And so, yes, tuition covers our costs, been able to increase our benefits so that we're competitive. And then the additional funds that we can raise through the annual fund and from our parents are going in and being invested back into our school. And I think because we've been a good fiduciary partner with our parents as far as taking care of the funds, they trust us that when they donate to our school, that the dollars are going to go directly to the teachers and students, which it does, versus filling this gap that we can't do.
And you're adding additional funds because I know you've been very successful with your auxiliary revenue as well.
Right. Our summer camp was okay when I first got here. It's just something that we provided as a service really for the summertime with elementary students that and families need to work. And it really, in the last 4 years, has blown up, where we launched it February 1st and it literally fills up in 2 hours and is booked up. Wow. We offer it up first to our families and the outside community, and got a wonderful auxiliary director who's been doing this for a while. And again, it came down to community and compensating and getting great camp counselors. And it used to be mostly our Daycroft faculty, and it still largely is, but we've done a great job of recruiting and hiring outside individuals to come. And part of it is, again, we're paying them more than most camps are paying them because we want high quality individuals to create an amazing experience for our students and outside students. And because of the community that we have here of looking out for one another and care for one another, people like working here, which is wonderful.
And I know that it's about 7% of your total revenue is auxiliary.
That's right. It probably could be even more if we really maxed out the school. We're aware of kind of the wear and tear that, running the school year round has. But right now it's about 7% of our revenue comes from auxiliary, not only the summer camp, but also the enrichment and after school programs that we run throughout the school year, for families as well. And again, there's a lot of work and attention that goes on that. We're basically 6 months out every time looking to hiring and what type of programming can we put out there that's really going to excite the families to be part of.
Yeah, it just strikes me like if you're able to cover most of your operating through tuition revenue, now all of a sudden this auxiliary revenue, the fundraising revenue, it does allow you to reinvest. I know you've put a lot of energy and focus into making sure you've got really competitive benefits packages. And I have to imagine that leaning into those two revenue levers allows you to do that.
It does. And lets us retain and also attracts great teachers. Again, why are students here? It's because of the teachers, the camp counselors we have, and rightfully so. We should be paying these teachers as much as we possibly can because of the work that they are doing. And I'm really proud. We just handed out employment agreements this week to all of the teachers, and I'm really proud of where our salaries and our benefits are. And we've done things like we created an emergency fund for, it's a grant-based program for any teachers that run into an emergency, up to $2,000 grant for an emergency that financially would be a problem for a teacher. It shows that we care as a school and a community for them. Again, this was something that was approved by the board, supported by families here that care about the teachers. We've got a wellness program. Again, I copied that from another school. I would say, Peter, one of the things I've learned a lot as a leader is going on accreditation visits to other schools and cherry picking wonderful, great ideas out there to make our school a better place. So I highly encourage other school leaders to go on accreditation visits as much as possible to see what other schools are doing and how they run.
And this is literally one of the biggest challenges facing independent schools right now is recruitment and retention of teachers and staff, right? And so to see how you've been able to solve for that is really interesting and inspiring.
I love it's love coming to school, not only because of the students, but because of the faculty and staff that are here. I will share one of the other areas that has really deepened and strengthened our sense of community by the teachers this year is our elementary teacher got trained as a seed facilitator and hosting monthly seed meetings here in the evenings for our teachers. We have over a dozen teachers that are joining that. And in my interviews with teachers and in conversations with them this year, they feel even closer to one another because of these monthly seed meetings where they get to open up and learn about one another and have really meaningful and deep conversations, all while having dinner together as a community. So that's another thing that has been layered in this year. And I feel really lucky that we're having that at our school to facilitate for our faculty and staff.
Hey, just a couple more questions as we begin to wrap up. You've done a lot in the last 5+ years to stabilize, grow and stabilize enrollment, grow and stabilize teacher retention, all the things. Was there a decision that you made along the way that felt risky, but was really important to this success?
Yeah, I'd say one, opening up in COVID when all the schools around us locally here in Michigan were closed. That was scary. Again, coming from California and talking to other independent school leaders around the country and actually over in Asia and Europe really helped to solidify that we can do this. It was scary. And it also set us up for where we are today. The other thing, Peter, that we did too during the pandemic is I opened two other classrooms and I hired teachers for it, right? It's one of these things where I can't fill the classroom without teachers, but again, we were at a place financially where we really didn't have extra funds. Right. Do I hire the teachers and hope the students will come? And at that point in time, we hired the staff and we filled the classrooms too. That was scary given the financial situation where our school was, as you know, in that first year, we were hemorrhaging cash, but we leaned into that. So that was a scary decision to make, but it was the right decision. And again, I have wonderful mentors out there from other schools to help hold my hand along the way during that time. But those were probably the two biggest things that were scary for me, but have turned out to be the best moves we could have made.
That's cool. Last question. So imagine a head listens to this and they're like, I got to call David. I need some advice. And they were looking for advice on how do I turn around my enrollment and grow the school on that side. What's the first thing you suggest that they do?
First thing, and I'm sure they're already probably doing this, is come up with a plan with your admissions director who's hosting families in there, and come up with a strategy for marketing your school, and not through print. And then be a part of every one of those tours, right? As a head of school, right? You are the leader of the school. Parents are going to look to you as the leader of the school, and being part of that tour, I think, can be really, really important to assure families that you're actively involved in the school, and having them get to know you as a person and being curious about other people. The admissions, you've got to be front and center as a leader and be a part of those tours and meeting with parents.
Yeah, that's fantastic. David Lee, head of school, Daycroft School in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Congrats on all the success. And I really appreciate you sharing the story.
Thank you, Peter, for giving me the opportunity to share with you and everybody else. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks. Hi there, my friend. I want to thank RG175 for sponsoring this episode of the Independent School Moonshot podcast. Great schools thrive under great leadership. At RG175, we understand that finding the right match between a school and its next leader is a defining moment for both heads and trustees. With extensive experience in independent school leadership and a highly personalized approach, we guide boards through thoughtful search processes and support school leaders through key career transitions. Whether you're looking for your next leadership opportunity or seeking the ideal fit for your school, RG175 is here to help. Visit rg175.com. Again, that's rg175.com to learn more, because behind every successful school is a great leader.